cross stitching runner and welcome to my channel. I want to say a big hello and welcome to all new and returning viewers, and if by chance you've stumbled across this channel is all about cross stitch with a bit of life stuff thrown in, and this particular episode is a unique one compared with many of my other episodes, especially recent ones where I'm just coming off the Black Needle Society's Winter in Stars Hollow Stitching Digital Retreat, and I'm very much feeling the hangover effects from that stitching retreat, but in a positive way, where every time I'm thinking about the experiences that I've had with the retreat, I am all smiles. I very much have my cup filled and overflowing with positivity and happiness and excitement and joy of being able to connect with so many like-minded people who love the TV show Gilmore Girls, who love stitching, and just being able to sit down and chill out with like-minded people and be able to do stitching and every so often chats with people. It was just absolutely awesome. It really was. And what I am very much chuckling about, and I think one of the attendees, she very much pointed it out, that the funny thing with this experience was that whilst it was hosted and very much American based with timing and that, there was many Aussies that we got to catch up with and actually make new friends with as well. And it was just absolutely awesome. It was really cool. So without further ado, let's get into what the stitching retreat was and the special goodies that came with this special retreat that made it extra special, and I guess some of the stitching that I got into as well. The Black Needle Society curated an awesome and amazing box for the stitching retreat that we had over Easter. All of the goodies that came in the box were either stitching related or all of which based upon the TV series Gilmore Girls. So what I'm going to do here is just share with you some of the things that came in the box. Unfortunately, I don't have all of the things with me because some of them need washing and others are back at home. So I'll do my best to share with you what I do have with me and we'll go from there. The first thing that I have to share with you is a blanket that I've got sitting on my lap right now. So I'll just stand up and step back and try to hold it up for you so you can see the beautiful artwork that's on it. Being short doesn't always help with this, but I hope that you were able to see a bit of what was going on with that blanket and some of the different things that I pictured on it. So ultimately, we were looking at the town square for Stars Hollow. We had Lorelei and Rory walking through the town square a little bit. The key features on it had the gazebo, it had the high school, and it also had some of the lights that are wrapped in the trees, and there were some snowmen as well. And one of the snowmen, rather a snow woman, is one of the creations that Lorelei and Rory did when Stars Hollow had a snowman making competition. And it is, yeah, just one of those really cool things that has actually helped me a lot during the retreat, where especially in the very early morning times when I was participating in the stitching challenges, I was able to have this blanket either draped around me because I was feeling a bit cold and I wasn't wearing this jumper, or just over my legs to keep them feeling warmish, because there were times when I was up at about midnight to participate in the first stitching challenges for that day that were at about 1 a.m. Australian time, and that would equate to about 9 a.m. in the Central Daylight Time for some key areas in America. And that's where this blanket also helped when I needed to have a bit of a nana nap, when there was a bit of a break between some of the stitching challenges. So a lot of those breaks were perhaps, let's see, I've got the chart nearby. It would typically be around 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. I might have had a little bit of a nap, but especially after the stitching challenge, when it it started at 4 a.m., finished at about 5 a.m., and there'd be about a 3 hour break to enable people in other parts of the world have lunch and stretch legs, do what they need to do. And that enabled me to have a sleep for about an hour and then have breakfast and warm up, have a shower, feel human again, quickly say hello to Michael and find out where he was going to fish for that morning and all the rest, and then get my second burst of energy to be able to stitch for another challenge. So that was that. Okay, next bit of goodies. Floss. So with each of the stitching boxes, we would get in the Owl's Pancake World Chinese box that's back at home, would come with flosses. These were flosses that had been dyed specifically for the Gilmore Girls stitching retreat, and I'll just share with you what these are. All of these were dyed by Colour and Cotton and named or inspired by either quotes or episodes and such by Gilmore Girls. So this was roughly the colours that were in Rory's winter prom dress, or formal dress, sorry, yes, formal dress. And it was in the first season of Gilmore Girls when Rory and Dean went to the Chiltern formal, and it was towards the end of that episode when Rory and Dean confirmed that yes, they were indeed boyfriend and girlfriend, and they accidentally fell asleep on some of the yoga mats or bean bags in Miss Patty's, and yeah, it caused a bit of a fight between Lorelai, Rory, and Emily. It all worked out in the end, but this is just a really beautiful variegated blue. Then the next one is a pom. This is when Lane very briefly became a cheerleader for the Stars Hollow High School, and their colours were red and white. I wanted to say blue because of the thread we were just looking at. And yeah, apparently one pom is a pom, two poms are pom-poms. We then have 7 Christmas trees, and this is a very beautiful, beautiful variegated green. And it has me wondering if I could get away with stitching this on a navy blue, though some of the colours might get lost on it. So I guess maybe a lighter blue or just lighter coloured fabric. The next one is autumn leaves, and with autumn leaves, this isn't a specific quote or specific episode that I'm aware of, but just autumn leaves, and they really are these beautiful, beautiful colours. And it's in this context where I feel like I should be stitching on a Quaker or some kind of chart that calls for any colours that you want to stitch on. I'm thinking of a long dog sampler or something similar to that. I really am going to need to get my stitchy bug back on. Not stitchy bug, but designer bug. That's wording I'm needing to get some more designs out there that you can use all of this fancy floss on, not just what I've got here in front of me, but anything that you've got in your stash. So the next one is for tonight only. My name is Bill, and this is inspired by a scene in Gilmore Girls when Emily and Richard, they renew their vows, and this is a song they dance to called Bill. That was Emily's favorite, and it was also a song that I think it was the only song that not Rory, that Lorelai would fall asleep to because she was having a bit of discomfort with an illness she had at the time, and it was one of the few songs that would soothe her and get her to settle down. So for yeah. Okay, then we've got Rich Blumenfield's hair, and this is a scene in I think the first season of Gilmore Girls where Lane has a crush on Rich Blumenfeld and she loves his hair. All she wants to do is just run her fingers through his hair because it is, in her mind, this beautiful thick hair that just calls out to be touched. And when she does, and she realizes what she has done, she freaks out and is just so embarrassed. She ends up running and camping out at Lorelai and Rory's home. But of course, Rory's not there because Rory got snowed out and she's staying overnight at her grandparents' place. And Lorelai is on this date with Rory's teacher, who just happened to have been driving through Stars Hollow. His car breaks down and won't be ready until the next morning. And yeah, it all works out, kind of, for that episode. The next bit of goodie is a needle minder that I really should have had out and should have been using during the retreat. I have plenty of opportunities to do this though. So this is a really cool needle minder, and if I'm understanding the room as well, it's a possibility that one of the attendees had designed this and made this. I hope I'm on the right track on this one. And I'm under the impression that Chloe may have made this, but if I'm wrong, I apologize. Either way, whoever did make this needle minder is uber talented, super talented. And I love the magnets that are on the back here. They are very strong. I am struggling to actually get these off. Oh, they're very strong needles. So sorry for the noise. Um, strong, very magnetic magnets. That's going to be awesome. The next goodie is a tape measure, and we've got sorry for the glare. So the design here is when Lorelai is making Rory's dress on one of those mannequins that people use for dressmaking and such, and it's when Lorelai ends up hurting her back because Rory's dress makes a pass at her and falls over, and she falls over and hurts her back. So let's pull this out. One side we have centimeters, and the other side we've got inches. And then on the back, I've got a button, press it and retracts. So that's going to be super useful. The next thing is this really cool, cute little chart that has the all the things that we need to finish the project as well. So we've got this chart was designed by Katie Landis, who is one half of the Black Needle Society. I am in full-blown admiration of Katie. She is such an talented artist, And I wish I had even just a portion of her ability to be creative in that way, of being able to draw and color and design and such. And yeah, I am just love her work, absolutely 100%. And when I was in one of the stitching rooms with Laura and Katie, Laura is Katie's mum, and she is one of the other half of the Black Needle Society, and they're awesome. Both of them are absolutely awesome. But Laura was wearing a t-shirt that has like a unicorn on it and some other things that I can't quite remember. And it was designed by Katie. And then there's I think Katie might have even been wearing some t-shirts that have got some stuff on it as well that she designed and drawn. There was also, I think, some project bags that had unicorns and other stuff that Katie had drawn. And then they had perhaps engaged someone who was a fabric person and was able to get Katie's designs onto the fabric, which then has me wondering about the blanket as well, if that was Katie's artwork as well, or if it was someone else's artwork. I'm not sure, but either way, such talented people. Mind blown. And I am fangirling just a little bit here. So I'm looking forward to stitching on this Luke's mug. The next thing monkey underpants. This quote always makes me chuckle. I can't quite remember the context around it. I know it was something that, no, I think it was still in the context of Lorelai saying this, but I still can't quite remember the context of when it was said or why. Anyway, this particular device is a tool that I haven't needed to use yet, but I have no doubt that I eventually will. So the purpose of this, it's a floss winder. So for some people who are stitching on large projects and they choose to get hanks of thread rather than the traditional skeins of floss that we see online in different shops or whatever else it might be, even in our local needlecraft stores and such. They're just the traditional skeins, I guess, similar to these skeins that are already sort of measured out to comfortable lengths. And what these floss winders do is that if you've got like a big hank of floss that, like this would have come from a big hank of floss, and to get this floss onto the floss drop is you would have your hank, you would sort of wind it round a little bit, and you would snip at a particular point, and you would then be able to use your fingers, do a few things to then get it onto the floss drops. I am totally butchering that explanation, I totally appreciate, and I also don't have any huge hanks of thread in any way. So I hope as part of the editing thing I can include pictures somewhere. If I have forgotten or have not been able to find a picture of a hank of floss to do my description justice, I apologise. I hope that you'll be able to do some Google searches or search engine searches to find out what a hank of thread is to appreciate why this tool will be absolutely awesome. If nothing else, I will just have this on display, and if I need to have a bit of a chuckle or a smile of some kind, this, I have no doubt, will help me out with that. And the other things that did come in the box but I don't have with me, actually, I'll go on with that, but I do have one more thing with me. So there was also this really big coffee mug that came as well, because you cannot have Gilmore Girls without coffee. They just love their coffee way too much. And with this particular mug, there's this artwork around it, and it's what is it? It's from got a few different scenes from the winter episodes of Gilmore Girls, and what I'm trying to remember are the words for watercolor. They're more of like a watercolor kind of painting drawing rather than artwork that was using pens and pencils or textures or acrylic paints or anything like that. So it it is a coffee mug that I used quite a lot during the retreat. The other thing that came in the Stitchy box was a blue and white striped beanie that also had like a pom thing on the top of it. I'm not quite sure what else to describe it as, and it had embroidered near the front the Winter in Stars Hollow, and it's a very comfy beanie. So when it does get super cold, or not necessarily super cold in Wollongong, but if I travel to other places, if I visit Canberra again in winter, I'll need my beanie. It is a really cool beanie. Or even if I just want to be nostalgic and think back to the Winter and Stars Hollow Stitching Retreat, I'll be able to pop it on and just look a bit odd, walk around the unit with my beanie on. It'll be okay though. But the last thing I do have with me is this chart. So this is designed by Katie Landis, and it is the last chart for the series. And to also help put into context, I just need to cover this up a little bit. Okay, so to put things into context, the idea with all of the charts that Katie has designed, the aim was to stitch them in a long panel. So winter will be on the very end, and it would connect up with autumn. Then we'd have summer and spring. So it ended up being this really beautiful long panel that would feature a lot of the key elements that we love about the show. It had a lot of the main characters in it. It had some of the well-known buildings and such as well in the TV series. So I'm still in split minds about how I'm going to get it all assembled. The good thing is I have ample time, because in the next section I'll be able to share with you my progress with stitching on different things. But really, absolutely, last before least is the project bag. How could I forget the project bag? So this it's double-sided. So this is one bit of the artwork of Lorelai and Rory sitting on their couch. It would be one of their Friday night campouts in front of the TV before they had to do the Friday night dinners or anything like that. And then on the back is the quote. And again, this is from the episode when Rory and Dean first get to have, I guess, their first casual kind of date before anything really becomes official for them. And it is the episode where Rory and Lorelai are going to sit down and watch Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the one that has Gene Wilder in it. And they go to get a whole heap of food from Dosie's Market, and just as they're paying for it all, Rory goes to get the video before the shop closes, and Lorelai then says to Dean, "Look, hey, we've got heaps of food here. What are you doing after your shift here at Dosie's? Do you want to come over for some food and watch the movie with us, and you'll be able to confirm which one of us goes into a sugar food coma first." The town's got dibs on it being me, and Dean says, "Yeah, sure, I'll come over." Rory flips a lid when Lorelai tells her what she's done, and yeah, the rest is history. There is a particular scene um, when that quote is said. It's a lifestyle. It's religion. So I guess the next stage of unwinding and decompressing from the stitching retreat and feeling a little bit like I've got that hangover, so to speak, from the retreat. A part of it is the tired eyes and wanting to cross stitch, but then feeling like I need to step as far away from this room as I practically can, but then also wanting to be in this room because it's my stitching safe space, but also the room that has all the technology that I feel I need the break from. It's a weird warped world, and with the 4 days or 3 days, 3 to 4 days, can't remember exactly. That's part of the thing of coming out of the stitching retreat of uh, trying to figure out what day is it and what time is it. Is it ready for me to eat yet? Should I have some more coffee? Do I need some energy drinks to see me through the day? It's all of that my mind is being messed with because aside from having nana naps at key points during the stitching retreat, I definitely in the afternoons relied quite a bit on energy drinks to keep me awake and partly coherent. And I'm just so thankful for the patience of people in the stitching retreat, let alone my boyfriend as well, where I'd let him know, look, I'm going to be neglecting you for the next few days while the stitching retreat is on, and that I'll be doing my best to be up at weird times during our stay here to be able to participate as much as I can and nap on beds like the one behind me where I could. And it 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 was not intense, but an experience. That's the better wording. It was an experience and one I'm so thankful for to have lived through. And again, with all of these retreats, it's got me thinking I really need to be part of an in-person one. And what I'm really thankful for is one of the Aussie chicks I got to hang out with, Chloe. She mentioned that JK's stitching, they um, they're hosting a stitching retreat that is going to be in September up at the Central Coast at a place called Long Jetty. I've never been there before, and it is roughly a 2.5 to 3 hour drive from where I live in Wollongong. And I've certainly travelled up that way before, but I've not, to the best of my knowledge, ever stopped off at Long Jetty or been there in any capacity to the best of my knowledge. So I have pressed the relevant buttons to pay for the retreat. Um, I still need to press buttons and speak with relevant people to pay for to pay for accommodation, find accommodation, uh, also to request time off work. That's still some things that need to happen, but I'm looking forward to it. It's later in this year, September. September is usually a nice time of year in Australia, and especially if I'm heading northish and being still near the ocean, near water. In theory, at least, hay fever should not be too bad at that stage. It's more when it starts drying off and I go west or southwest to the farms. That's when life gets really uncomfortable with hay fever. But I'm looking forward to actually doing an in person retreat, being excited and nervous about it, and it would be awesome to think that my boyfriend will be able to come along as well, to at least go fishing while I'm doing the stitching retreat and meeting new people and meeting in person people that I've potentially met at the Black Needle Society's Gilmore Girl stuff. That is something I'm super looking forward to. That is going to be just absolutely awesome. When it's like, you're real. I can touch you. Oh, this is exciting. This is cool. You're not just a face on the screen that I've spoken with. And I know that, yeah, Chloe's an awesome person. She's a cool chick. So I'm really looking forward to being able to catch up with her and meeting new people who are Aussie as well, and seeing them in person and meeting people and everything in between. That is just going to be really cool. I'm super looking forward to it. My enthusiasm will be higher. I am still recovering from sleep. It is getting closer to lunchtime here, and I have had a full night's sleep. I think it's just going to take me several days to get that sleep back. Anyway, let's digress. Let's talk about the actual stitching, because ideally that's what we are all here for. I know I've rambled on for the last half hour plus, 45 minutes, all about the stitching retreat, all about the goodies that we had and that came and were part of boxes and everything in between. But what was it that I actually stitched on? So let's get into it. Have you ever? I'll rephrase. When using technology, there are moments when I think that technology is against me, and there are times when I just need to step away for a little bit. Because with this weekend that we've had, I was using all the computer bucket loads in front of the screen a bit, catching up with lots of people and all. Today could have been the first day that I had that big break from technology, and I think the universe, or the world at least, is just giving me those subtle signs, those subtle hints to say, look, today is just not the day. Take that break, step away, and enjoy the world for what it is, because outside the weather's beautiful. It is windy as, but that is to enable different weather to come in. I have been re-recording certain parts of this Flosstube many times, and it could be a variety of things influencing what's going on right now. So that's what I'm just contemplating, where the headspace is at. I also feel like I'm due for a nana nap. That's by the by. What we need to do though is get into the actual stitching stuff, and I will hopefully later on be able to share with you some of the different goodies that came in the Winter and Stars Hollow stitching box. But for the moment, what we'll do is we'll get into the different projects that I was able to work on during this retreat. So the premise of a lot of the stitching challenges that were scheduled was to stitch on something for an hour, and then once that hour was up, we would count up those stitches, and if that project meant the prompt, for example, stitch on something that has socks in it. If you stitched on a piece that had socks in it, for every 25 stitches you stitched, you would get 1 point. But if you stitched on a project that didn't have socks in it, you would get 1 point for every 50 stitches you did. And those points would help to go towards entries into winning prizes and such, for the potential to win some prizes. And it would also help the organisers to calculate the cumulative amount of stitches that everyone did throughout the stitching retreat. And to help put things into context, I know I did a minimum of 2,664 stitches throughout the 4 days that the event was on, and those 2,000 plus stitches were on a variety of projects. And in between the stitching challenges, I didn't keep as close a track of how much I was putting into projects, but I do know that with the Summer in Stars Hollow piece, I put a minimum of 1,000 stitches into it just on one day alone, and it's been really great seeing it come to life and knowing that I've got still half a bit of fabric to go, not to go, but about half a thing of fabric left over that this piece is sitting on, knowing that I could use it for a whole heap of other different projects if I wanted to. That's been really good. So with that in mind, here we are. One of the projects that I worked on during the retreat is charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. It's artwork by Randall Spangler called Trick or Treat 2. This one I love just the colors, the way it's designed, and the whole spooky house type of thing. And I'm stitching this on 18 count Ada, and this is where I'm at so far. And I do want to acknowledge that with this particular piece that I'm working on, I had initially bought a chart off Etsy, and I don't remember what the name of the chart was or who the person was selling the artwork and all the rest, but it wouldn't surprise me if that particular person no longer has an Etsy store because they were found out to be breaching copyright quite a lot. So when I had realized that and felt really crap about that, I started going, okay, where is this artwork from? Really, who's the creator of it? And I made a point of finding that and purchasing the chart. So that's where it turns out that it was Randall Spangler who had done the initial artwork, and it was then Heaven and Earth Designs who charted it. And it is awesome. I love it. And eventually I'll stitch the actual Haid design or Haid charting on the amount of fabric that it deserves to be stitched on, because this particular fabric or chart should be stitched on 25 count fabric, which means that if I was legitimately following or properly following the Haid chart on 18 count, this thing's going to be massive. It's going to be huge. I don't remember how many stitches exactly I put into this piece over the weekend. I know that I was focusing mostly on the night sky, and that I was focusing a bit on, yeah, I guess where you can see the blue thread hanging down. That's pretty much the area that I was working on. So I'm almost halfway across, and I guess that's how long it'll eventually be. I am looking forward to seeing this come to life. I just feel bad that I didn't do my research for it, and I have learned to do a bit more research for any charts that I do see on Etsy that are by some store owners whose names I feel that I just need to be cautious around. I don't want to paint a brush for anyone with those sort of names in case it's just the odd individual that may be from a particular region. So that's why I'm being cryptic and cautious with this. So I hope that no one gets duped too badly by it all, or if by chance you have unfortunately and unknowingly bought a chart that was stolen artwork and slightly recharted and then sold on as that person's artwork, you may understand where I'm coming from on that one. Anyway, that's by the by. Let's get on to the next round of stitching that I did. The next piece that I worked on had the prompt of stitch or work on something that has socks in it. And the next piece I decided to work on was Fight Like a Girl by Tanya Amity, and it's based on the illustrations by Eleanor Zhnedkova. And this is where I was focusing on the section where we see Pippi Longstocking holding up the book, and we could very much see that Pippi is wearing two different socks. So with that in mind, this is where I'm at. I focused on Pippi's green part, I guess the green part of Pippi's dress, and also some of the purple that we see on the books that are on the side as well. And I don't know I don't remember how many stitches I got into that piece. That said, I do know that with the pieces that I worked on that just had a solid colour I was focusing on, and I didn't need to change the thread on my needle too often, if at all, I would be able to get a couple of hundred stitches in, which I think was absolutely awesome. It also had an influence on if I was talking a lot in the groups I was sitting with, or if we were all madly stitching away trying to get as many stitches in as we practically could. Anyway, we got there. It all worked out in the end. The next piece that I have to share with you is a mini stitch in time based on artwork by Amy Stewart and charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. And I worked on this piece a few times during the retreat for different prompts that fitted really well. The awkwardness with this piece is that it does have a lot of color changes in it, so that slowed me down a little bit. And because I still had a bit of that element of competitiveness, I wanted to try and get as many stitches in as I could, and at least get as close to 100 stitches or 150 stitches even. So it worked out okay in the end. For the stitching challenge, many of the stitching challenges, I started to focus up at the top where we see some of the stitching where my fingers are moving around. And then I also was looking for some solid blocks as well to fill in. And that's where I was working on some of the darker green over here. I've also been using this piece to work on with the AFL stitching challenge, and the GWS Giants have been doing really well, and I've been doing a lot of the stitching around where we see blue here, which is a person sitting under a tree, and they might be reading a book based on what the cover page is showing for the piece. It'll all come together and it's going to be worth it in the end. I don't remember if the Giants played this weekend or not, and if they did, I will need to look up what score they got. That said, they might have had a bye this weekend, so that's okay too. It's all good. The next piece I have to share with you is Dewdrop Daisy, and it's by Hot Cross Stitching. This is based on a photo that I took in my garden, and it's coming along beautifully. It really is. I've been trying to work on the petals and filling them in at the bottom. So this is where I'm at so far, and I am aiming to get this finished by the end of this calendar year. Now that I've got some time off work and when I've had my nana nap, I'll be able to focus on this and get it finished. However, I've also gotten the bug to stitch on the Summer and Stars hollow piece, especially after this retreat, where I've seen so much progress on it that I know I'm getting a lot closer to getting it finished. So I'd like to work on that a little bit as well. To put things into perspective though, with the Dewdrop Daisy piece, I am at 88.95% for this, and it means that I've currently put in 53,835 stitches, and it has a total of 60,522. And I'm stitching that 2/2 using DMC floss and stitching it on 28 count linen. The purple that we see in that fabric, I had dyed it. The linen had originally been like an antique white type of color. It's all fairly relative though. I chose the color purple with that piece because I thought that if any of the fabric through happenstance was going to show through in any way, that the purple would complement some of the oranges and yellowish tones that we see in the petals. So the next piece that I have to share with you is a recent release for hot cross stitching, and it is a Spanish proverb called "A life lived in fear is a life half lived," and that's that. It is a saying that I've had in my mind, I guess, in recent times when I've been trying to work on the hot cross stitching side hustle. And there have been times when fear has gotten in the way a little bit. It's prevented me from doing different things because I've been fearful of the outcome. I've been fearful of what people might say or not say. I've been fearful of people's responses. It's those sort of things where it's more that I've gotten stuck in my head rather than any of the outcomes that could possibly happen. And it's also a quote that was used in the Australian movie Strictly Ballroom, where there's a scene in the movie where the female lead character is getting really frustrated with the male lead character, Scott, where he is wanting to change things up in the world of ballroom dancing, and he's fearful of doing a particular dance that is considered to be illegal in terms of the dancing world, and or a particular move in the dance called the paso doble. And she's getting all frustrated with him of sort of backing down from doing this particular move, and she gets frustrated, and she spits out this saying in Spanish, and then like a few days later things settle down and he goes back to her and says, "Look, what did you mean by the words you said? I don't understand what you're saying." And that's when she was able to calmly explain to him, "Look, this is what it is. Look, you shouldn't be living your life in fear because of what other people think you should do or not do. And so what if you end up getting disqualified in the competition? It's more about you doing what you think you should do, and the fact that people are going to remember it and love it, and that's sort of what you are doing this for, rather than any of the trophies and ribbons and such that you've been told that you should be aiming for." The other really cool thing with the movie, just as a side note, the movie was filmed in Sydney, or at least parts of it was filmed in Sydney, in the King's Cross area. And a few years ago, when I ran the City to Surf, that starts off in the CBD of Sydney, and we then run east towards Bondi Beach. A part of the course actually runs past one of the scenes that I always have vividly in my mind, that features a Coca-Cola sign. I guess it's near a corner store or a restaurant or something like that. I can't remember. And then above it is perhaps, I guess, the living quarters of the owners of the store. And it's got, I guess, a little bit of like a patio outdoor eating area. It's got like a Hills Hoist clothes horse and such. And it's many scenes of the movie is up on that rooftop balcony, patio, whatever you want to call it, where the two lead characters are practicing for the competition and everything. And when I ran past that particular spot for the city to surf, all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, I recognize that landmark. I know that from the movie. And it was really exciting. And it was a really nice, fun distraction from the act of running, which can be uncomfortable at times. But that was early on in the run. It might have been, say, the third kilometer or something, if that. Noting that the City to Surf is a 14-kilometer run and is very challenging with the terrain because it has a lot of hills. And anyway, I'm rambling. We're here for cross stitch, not for me rambling on about other life things. So that's a bit of the background for the Spanish proverb piece, and this is where I'm at. I was focusing quite a lot on the actual butterfly and filling in a bit of its body and moving down, and then starting to branch out with its wings a bit. So that's been really cool. And I'm stitching this on 18 count Ada that I picked up from the Victoria House needlework store that's in Mittagong. And when I saw this fabric, I knew straight away that I wanted to use it for this piece because of the way that I've charted it. I just knew that this color would complement it really well. I'm not sure exactly what color this fabric is. It could be like a sandy beige type of color. That's the closest description I can give it right now. I really do like how it's coming along though. The next piece that I did do the most amount of work on, again, is the Summer and Stars Hollow piece. And I don't have a proper cover page for this one because I'm using the digital pattern for this. And with the way Pattern Keeper has imported some of the specialty colors, it has a lot of white gaps for it because even though Pattern Keeper recognizes the words attributed to many of these colors, it doesn't know what color exactly it should be. With that said, this is where I'm at. And I love how this is coming along. I think Katie has done a phenomenal job of designing this and considering what elements she wants to have in it, and also considering how she envisaged it to marry up as well. These pieces I think look fantastic as standalone pieces, but they look even better when they're all lined up. I can't speak highly enough of it. I do need to fill in the background for the ice cream sundae that we see. The color that I want to use I've got back at home, so I'll just have to be patient and wait for that. Where we see the ties at the bottom here, that's the bottom of the piece. And this is what I was mentioning before about how much fabric I have at the bottom, where if I wanted to, I could stitch the Winter and Stars Hollow at the bottom. My idea would be that I'd turn it upside down and stitch the winter on the bottom. And the crease mark that we see at the bottom there could be where I then cut the fabric to separate the two projects. That said, considering how much people were grumbling about how much white was in the chart and that they were choosing to stitch on the recommended 28 count white linen, it has me considering stitching on a darker fabric. And considering it's a full coverage piece, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if I'm stitching on black, white, blue, or any color in between. It's more about, I guess, my comfort levels and what's easiest for me at the end of the day. The other challenge that I will need to consider when I'm done is the edge of this piece where we see the flowers. So to put into context, I'm just holding this up a little bit closer. You can see that I am super close to the edge there. It's partly because of the way I cut this fabric many moons ago, and it's also because of the decision that I made for when and where I started to stitch the project on this piece. So I've got a few thoughts in mind of what I can do. It's going to be a while before I make that final decision, and I'll potentially wait until I get back home where I've got some other fabric nearby that could help ideas and thoughts. I won't go into it too much because I know I'll change my mind about 5 times before I make that final decision of what it is I'm going to do. I do know that at the end it's all going to work out in the end. It'll be fine. It's more about having that extra bit of fabric on the edge to enable me to do whatever it is I want at the end. Okay, so that was the main bit of stitching that I did for the actual prompts, but I've also done some other stitching as part of the AFL stitching challenge, so let's get into that. Okay, so I have confession time. I forgot to bring my special little book that has who's played what, when, and what projects are connected and all that jazz. So I'm going to be fumbling my way through this a little bit, and I'm just going to be sharing with you some of the projects that I've definitely worked on since we last caught up, and I hope I am relatively up to speed with some of the projects. I have a feeling that I'm not, though. When I get back home, I'll be stitching furiously to catch up on some projects that I've missed working on because I've just not been sure, and I could double up because God forbid I should actually do more stitching than required on a project, because the aim is to get finishes done. However, that's by the by. Let's get into this. So the first project that I have to share with you is the Pisces project that I've attributed to the team Port Adelaide. And a couple of weeks ago, they played, or it feels a couple of weeks ago now, they played and they won their game and had scored a total of 122 points. And I've put roughly that amount into the piece and then some. So this is where I'm at so far, and I've been really enjoying putting some work in where you can see some of those extra colors, and it has been a really nice change compared with working just on teal or black. So as time goes on, I'm looking forward to putting more colors into this piece. I may, if I do go back and put another 122 stitches into this, it may just be filling in some more of the words and some of the teal, because I don't have all of the colors that I need with me at the moment. It'll be okay. I'll be able to fudge and work my way around to where I'm going to need to be. To put into context for how it'll look in the end, it is, where are we? Okay, so to put into context, this is a mock-up of what the piece is going to look like when it's done. And just to bring it in a bit, the fin of what we see for the bluefish towards the bottom, that's where I've been working on, and that's what you'll see some of the stitches done. So actually rather a little bit of the blue fin of the fish, but also some of the greens that we see of the fish towards the top of the project as well. So I'm just really looking forward to working on more of those colours when they come up, because I think, to me, that's the attraction of that piece. It's going to look really cool towards the end. The next piece that I put some work into, and at the moment I can't remember which team I've got associated with this one. I have a feeling that it could be the Melbourne Demons, because it's a Halloween themed piece, demons, that kind of jazz. So if that truly is the case, then this is what I'm working on. It is charted by Tilton Crafts and it's called Halloween Treats 2. So that's probably a better way of looking at it. And with this piece, I've started in the center. So I'm working on a bit of the calendar where we see the numbers 31. And excuse the squeaky chair, it is what it is. And this is where I'm at so far. And at the moment, the Melbourne Demons are doing really well with their games. They are, as always, a strong team. So it's no doubt that they are winning their games, and they played last night. And so I'm going to need to put roughly 78 stitches into it. And if I've not done any stitching from last week's round, then I'm going to need to put an additional 76 in, not 76, 96 rather, into it. So I'll mostly work on the white thread that we've got hanging down, just so I can get it out of the way. Initially with this piece, I had started stitching this 2/1 because I had a little bit of a brain freeze with how I was stitching. And then I started to get a bit annoyed with how bulky my stitches were starting to feel, because this is 28 count even weave and it can cope with the 1/1, I think. And I'm actually liking how the stitches are sitting a lot more with using the 1/1 style of stitching. So I guess initially the bit of the calendar where we've got some of the browns and yellows, that will remain looking bulky, and hey, it'll just draw the attention straight to the center of the piece. So it should be okay. The next piece that I have to share with you is the quote, "I count my lucky stars every day that you are in my life." And again, I've had a mental blank on which team I've got assigned to this particular piece. So I might just end up working on it for the case of it being with me. And this is the piece. It's a chart that's available on the Hot Cross Stitching website and Etsy store, and it's coming along really nicely. I've finished stitching all of the words and I'm now at the stage of working on the border, and this is where I'm at so far. And as we can see, my aim is to fill in the bit of the gap that we see for the leaf at the moment. And I've had, again, a mental blank on which DMC number I'm using for the leaf. My aim, however, is to stitch one part of the border in this DMC number and then perhaps use a darker shade for the other part of the border. So to help put into context, the leaves that we see for this border and some of these squirrely bits, they will be in that lighter teal blue color that we've seen on this piece. And then some of the darker ring, that, or it's all one color really at the moment, but I'm aiming to stitch, just for contrast, one of the hoops or circles in a darker shade, just to give it that shading that I think the piece needs, and to give it some contrast, because I could just leave the quote as it is. Eventually, I will get around to frogging this little variegated piece on the side. It's going to be a grumbling stage when I get to that, because it will be a pain in the neck to do. I'll get there. It'll be okay. The next piece that I have to share with you that I did work on is Design Works Zebras. And this came as a kit that I purchased several years ago through the Fox collection. And I can't remember if the last time we caught up I shared my progress with this. As time has passed, I can't remember how many stitches I've put into this. So I've been mostly focusing where we see a lot of the pinks and slightly lighter purples. And I have been working on this in association with the team, the Gold Coast Suns, because Gold Coast, sunshine, happy places, sunshine, rainbows. I know I've said sunshine twice. So it'll be good. It'll be good. I'm looking forward to moving down into the lower quarter. I think just more for the change of colour, the change of pace. That will be nice, and to start to see the muzzle or the nostrils and mouth for the pink zebra to come to life as well. That's going to be super nice as well. So I do have one more project to share with you that I have in another room. I'll just go and grab it and see you soon. Okay, so the last piece that I have to share with you is called Trio of Dogs, and unfortunately I don't have the cover page with me at the moment, and I have no doubt that it's floating around home somewhere. So this is where I am at so far, and my main focus has been working on the background that we see near the needle minder, and my aim has been to get as much of that filled in as I practically can, so I can start coming down a little bit lower and working on the fun areas of this piece. We can see here that we've got the chocolate Labrador puppy forming, and the trio of dogs will eventually see a golden Labrador and a black Labrador coming to life, and I can't wait to see them come to life, because it's just going to make stitching very interesting and a lot of fun. This is fabric that came in the kit. It was a kit that also had or has anchor threads in it as well, and I'm definitely learning to not do my normal trick of having an arm's length of, or 2 arms length rather, of thread and then folding that thread in half to have the 2 strands, because the friction of the thread going through the holes in the fabric is wearing it a little bit thin, the thread rather, a little bit thin, and it starts to break. So it is what it is. It's me just needing to be mindful of that, and looking forward to seeing these puppy dogs come to life, because that is the main attraction for this piece. So I guess that's pretty much it as far as stitching is concerned. The plans that I have for the next few days at least is to, I guess, jot down the scores from, I guess, last week's games of AFL and keep an eye out for the games over the next few days, jot down their scores and start working on some of the projects that I know I've got with me that I think are connected to those teams. I am also working on some stuff in the background to update the Hot Cross Stitching website, and also to work on some charts, or finalise some charts rather. We'll also be travelling back up to Wollongong in the next few days, which will be really, really good. The sad thing though is that I was due to participate in a fun run this coming weekend in Canberra, and I I've been lax in the sense that I've not done all the stretching and work I've needed to do to get my muscles feeling right for running. The frustrating thing is that the left hip is still feeling rather tight, and sitting down for the majority of my time isn't helping. I definitely acknowledge that. So, the good thing is that I have a massage booked in this afternoon just down the road at the Malul Bay Shops. I've never been there before, or I've been to the Malul Bay Shops, but this place that I'm going to for the massage, I've not been there before, and I am super excited about supporting a local business. Also, I'm really looking forward to getting some massage done on my shoulder from the stitching retreat. It's been sore from the tension of holding my arm in a particular spot, holding the cross stitch while I'm stitching, and also just getting some work done on my legs. I have no doubt that getting a massage on my calves, my hips, and every other part of me that is feeling a bit tight, that I hope is going to help me out a bit with feeling a lot more comfortable with my movements and get back get back into running. I do miss running, and I may not always enjoy the act of running at times for different reasons. I do love how I feel afterwards though, that feeling of achievement, that physical exhaustion that comes from a run, and knowing that I'm taking care of myself in that sense. And I've been trying to take care of myself in other ways by still going to the gym and doing other types of activities that can help me with being strong and keeping active. It'll come together in the end. It will be okay. It will be okay. So let's wrap this up. Let's say thank you so much for your time, for your patience with me on this, and I hope you've been able to get a lot of stitching done, and I hope to see you in a couple of weeks time, or perhaps shorter if I can get back into a regular routine, and all will be good. See you later.